Welcome to a brand new series in the restoration industry. Gokul and I are launching a restoration masterclass, and this one is going to be on mergers and acquisitions. I am very excited to have Gokul here as the resident M&A expert. This is a huge topic in the restoration industry right now, and it seems like every week, almost daily, there are new announcements coming out about mergers and acquisitions that are happening with really big companies and really big players. So over the coming weeks and months, Gokul and I are going to be releasing a number of conversations on everything that has to do with M&A. Any questions that you might have if you are approached to sell your company, if you're thinking about selling your company, just really everything you're going to need to know. So stay tuned for a lot of episodes to come. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Restoration Masterclass series on M&A. So there have been a lot of deals in the industry lately, and a lot with big companies. And I know a lot of these big companies have had multiple suitors at the table. So what do you do when you have multiple suitors? And they're good suitors. I know that a lot of these have been good suitors for good companies. So how can an owner go about making the best decision for their company?
Yeah, great question, right? So all owners are getting calls today. So how do you make the best, right? And here's what happens. You're going to get multiple offers on your business, almost sight unseen, because they want to take it off the market. All right. So you're going to see these numbers kind of come in pretty close to each other as we do it. But I think it quickly moves beyond the numbers to strategic fit. So you got to know what the 3-year, 5-year, long-term strategic plan is for all the people that are approaching you. You got to really understand their culture. Okay, you got to talk to the people that they acquired before to see what the experience has been. Correct? And you got to understand and have a clear vision of how that acquisition, or if that, when you choose that particular person to buy your business, how together you could be better than alone. Correct? Yes. So it's all of these other strategic and cultural and leadership fits that you got to decide, right? Yep. Now, I can tell you at our firm, we go visit all the major players. We know what their plans are. We know culturally whether a particular client would be a fit or not a fit. Okay. So we spend a ton of time really getting to understand who these buyers are, whether it's private equity, whether it's a player that's getting national, or whether it's a family office. So it's our job to do it. So I think if you're getting multiple offers, that's what you got to do. You really got to sit back and do your research. You got to know, because everybody's in a honeymoon phase in the beginning, okay? And they're just going to throw all these numbers out and be extra nice and congratulate you and try to flatter you. But that's the game. But you got to go beyond that, all right, quickly. And you got to say, okay, who long term, once all the band has stopped playing, who down the road is going to be a strategic fit and better for my employees and for my customers? That's what you got to look at.
So how many of the companies that you work with have been through the due diligence phase, they're getting to the end, and there's maybe multiple suitors with multiple offers? How many of them are taking actually what's the highest number offer?
So it always starts with the highest number, right? Because that's where most of the entrepreneurs, but the really good entrepreneurs quickly get beyond that, all right? And then they'll start doing research and they'll start thinking about it. Okay, now who's good for my key people? Or who's good for my customers? Who's good for my employees? Who's good for the company that I've spent all these years building? How can they accelerate my growth? That's where you want to get to, right? It starts with numbers, but it quickly fades, okay? And usually it starts to, kind of center around employees and strategically who's the best fit is. And that's really where you want to be.
Do you have any questions that you think every single buyer should be asking every single seller should be asking every single potential buyer?
I think, why would you want to buy us? I think it's a great question. Yep. Very insightful. Okay. Second is, in your minds, what would make a successful acquisition? Okay. Those two questions are absolutely critical. And then you ask, hey, what is your end game? Right? So if you are, for example, you're young and you want to continue to work, right? Then maybe a private equity company that's going to buy you, and then maybe you have some special invitation to buy stock, in the mothership, so to speak. Maybe that is an option for you. If you want to retire early, then it may be another kind of buyer, correct? So it just also all comes back to what success means to you and what your vision is for an exit, and then you take a buyer and try to make the best match. That's the best way to do it.
Okay, so talking about the exit really quick, how many sellers are staying in with their company and maybe changing roles versus some leaving altogether, or maybe there's that middle ground where they're a consultant for a while and then leaving? What does that generally
Yeah,
look
so
like?
so that runs the gamut. Okay, and again, it's an individual choice, correct? So some people say, you know what, I want to continue to work for another 2 to 3 years. I just want to cash out on my equity, correct? So we can negotiate that as part of the deal, right? Some folks would say, hey, I want to retire. And usually a buyer's going to ask you for 6 months to 12 months to help with the transition before you retire, right? So it kind of runs from, hey, I want to work multiple years, right, and help you grow and maybe get a second bite of the apple, to, hey, I want to retire, that's why I'm selling. Let me help you with a 6-month transition or a 1 year, and then I'm going to announce my retirement, right? So it works the gamut.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Gokul. Good information as always. See you soon.
Thanks.